Welcome back, everybody. I have the pleasure to introduce the next presenter and student at the Berklee Global Jazz Institute, and directly from Los Angeles. Please welcome Alex Johnson. Please clap for him. Thank you. I had to prompt him. Alex Johnson is a saxophonist, composer, and educator from Los Angeles. He earned a bachelor's degree in 2015 at the Bob Cole Conservatory of Music at California State University, Long Beach, where he was member of the Downbeat Award-winning concert jazz orchestra. Shortly after graduation, he earned a spot in the world-famous Disneyland band, playing tenor saxophone and doubling on clarinet and piccolo. During his year in Boston, he has traveled and performed at the Panama Jazz Festival with special guest Andre Howard, and at the Beam House in Amsterdam as member of our new organization, a Global Association of Interconnective Arts, also known as Gaia. Alex advisor is Alan Chase, and we welcome from the faculty department in the committee, Mrs. Roya Hugh. Is that fine? Okay. Alex Johnson.
So thank you for the introduction, Marco. I really appreciate it. Like Marco said, my name is Alex Johnson, and the title of my Culminating experience project is The Transformative Effects of Education. I'll be talking about how my educational experience here at the Berklee Global Jazz Institute has affected me as a musician and educator, inspired me to become more socially active. This year at the Berklee Global Jazz Institute has been transformative for me in many ways and really helped to highlight the directions I want my career to go in. I was very inspired musically from all of the faculty and guest artists who we had throughout the year, and really value all their knowledge and mentorship. I was also very inspired from a teaching perspective from the pedagogy class taught by Marco, which really helped reaffirm that I want to be an educator in addition to being a performing musician. The experiences I had in the Danilo Perez Performance Labs, Music and Social Activism class, and lessons with guest artists and faculty were the main sources of inspiration for my compositions. Some of the compositions are inspired from specific musical concepts I was exposed to, and others were inspired from discussions and conversations we had in class. I feel the education I received here at the Berklee Global Jazz Institute has inspired me to compose music in a way that I hadn't done before in the past. With that said, I'd like to get right into the music. The first composition I'll be showing is called In Commons, which was inspired by a directed study lesson I had with the drummer Adam Cruz. After playing the jazz standard Bye Bye Blackbird, Adam recommended we try to visualize the location and play the tune and improvise in a way that would reflect that. The first location I thought of was downtown Manhattan in the middle of rush hour, and I was surprised how just visualizing the scene affected my overall playing. This inspired me to try to write a composition based on a location, so I took a trip to Boston Common to see what kind of inspiration I could get. The first thing I heard was a bird call that I later researched and discovered came from a bird called the American robin. The rhythm of the call inspired me to write a motif for the saxophone part, and this motif would be the foundation for the first section of the piece. In addition to hearing the bird call, I heard a lot of outside noise from the area around the park, such as brakes screeching, airplanes flying overhead, and especially cars honking their horns, which I tried to imitate in the tenor saxophone part by having the tenors jump into harmony in the altissimo register. The first section of In Commons represents the intersection of Boston Common and the world just outside the park, and the second and free section of the tune were inspired by the beauty and serenity of the park when it was peaceful and there wasn't a whole lot of outside noise interfering. Here are all the musicians who played on In Commons, and I'll play a little bit of it. Thank you. The next tune I'll be showing is a tune I wrote inspired by the music and social activism class I took this year. In the class, we were asked to compose a piece inspired by a social issue, and I decided to write a piece in response to a shooting in my hometown of Poway, California. The shooting took place in the synagogue, the Chabad of Poway, on the last day of Passover, and I wanted the piece to be able to pay tribute to people that I knew that were affected, but also show my frustration with the recurrence of gun violence in our society. Compositionally, most of the tune, I used consonant harmonies, but I wanted the last chord of the piece to be very dissonant to represent my anger and frustration. Here's a little bit of prayer for Poway. Thank you. Aside from the musical growth I felt in my playing this year at the Berklee Global Jazz Institute, my education here has really helped solidify that I want to be an educator in addition to being a performing musician. Without the education I've received here, I wouldn't have written the compositions the way I did or feel as inspired to become more socially active. This experience helped give me the idea to start the process of creating my own nonprofit music organization that can give music students some of the opportunities that I had that I took for granted growing up. I spent time this year researching the process of creating a nonprofit and received a lot of help and guidance from my committee member, Roy Hu, and my advisor, Alan Chase. I knew I wouldn't be able to completely create the organization while I was in school, but I wanted to familiarize myself with key aspects such as writing a grant proposal and developing a clear mission statement. I learned how essential these are in developing a nonprofit because if you can't really articulate what your project is, it makes it very unlikely that potential funders will understand your project and want to contribute to it. The mission of my nonprofit is to expose middle school band students in Los Angeles, specifically the Norwalk, La Mirada school districts, to jazz through free private lessons with professional musicians, playing in a jazz ensemble, and having performance opportunities in the community and area. There were many inspirations for me creating this nonprofit, and one of the main ones was seeing firsthand how the Danilo Perez Foundation is affecting social change in Panama. I had the opportunity to perform and teach for music students from the foundation when I was at the Panama Jazz Festival, and could really see the impact the foundation was making on the students and community as a whole. Many of the students in the foundation come from very difficult situations, and I felt the parallel back to my own experience working with the middle school students in Norwalk. An important influence for me as well was Marco's pedagogy class, which gave me a deeper understanding on how impactful a teacher can be on a student's development. I have a different appreciation for teachers who really develop their craft and take it seriously, and want to apply this attitude in my future teaching endeavors. Another influence was the music and social activism class, which encouraged me to reflect on what I wanted my career music to look like, and how I could give back to people less fortunate than I have been through music. I also did research on some current nonprofit music organizations in Los Angeles, such as the Harmony Project and Jazz Angels, which gave me ideas and encouragement that creating this organization was possible. The Harmony Project's mission is comprised of three main facets, which I'll quote directly from their website. Growth, to promote the healthy growth and development of children through the study, practice, and performance of music. Community, to build healthier communities by investing in the positive development of children through music. And connection, to develop children as musical ambassadors of peace, hope, and understanding amongst people of diverse cultures, backgrounds, and beliefs. I found the connection aspect of the Harmony Project's mission statement very similar to some of the values that the Global Jazz Institute promotes. The Jazz Angels mission, quoted from their website, is to create an environment for young musicians to play and help preserve jazz while building self-esteem, confidence, and leadership skills. I was very motivated to discover nonprofits like the Harmony Project and Jazz Angels in Los Angeles, and this really motivated me to keep pursuing creating my own. Just for a little bit of context, before I came to the Berklee Global Jazz Institute, my wife was the band director and orchestra teacher at a Title I school in Norwalk, which is a city within LA County. The vast majority of students came from low-income situations, and I saw how this at times had an effect on their development as musicians. None of the students could afford to take private lessons. 95% of the students were using instruments provided by the school, and 5 out of 6 middle school programs in districts had no jazz band, jazz combos, etc. So kids had very little exposure to jazz. This made me realize how fortunate I was growing up being able to have access to all these things. And so I wanted to find a way to give back to the students in the same opportunities that I had. I also wanted to address an issue I saw with the amount of performance opportunities students have while in band for a full school year. It's pretty often to only have maybe 3 or 4 concerts every year, which I think doesn't give students enough performing experience out in the real world. I wanted my organization to give students more performance opportunities out in public, not just in their school, gymnasium, or performing arts center. After coming up with a mission statement, I wanted to create a vision for the program in its first year. The program will have 30 students from around the Norwalk, La Mirada school districts be a part of the organization and have each student get a half-hour private lesson a week at their school site after school. This will make it much more convenient for students to get to their lessons and will mean multiple lessons can happen in multiple classrooms at the same time. The program will ideally run the full school year, giving the students time to progress throughout the year and allow the teachers to really track the students' improvement. I want the students to also be able to perform an ensemble at least once a month outside of school, so they can gain a lot more confidence with performing. This will also give the students more of a perspective on what it feels like to be a professional musician, where most of the time we don't have months and months to prepare for a performance. I also want to give the students the opportunity to record an album in the studio toward the end of the year. I feel like this would be a really valuable experience for them to have at a really young age. And at the very end of the year, as a way to fundraise for next year, the organization will throw a big end of the year celebration concert. And this will be an opportunity to recognize donors who helped contribute and also hopefully receive more donations for the next year. It'll also be an opportunity for the students to perform as an ensemble for the last time that year and also sit in with their private teachers and play together. And this is the vision I have for my organization in its first year, and I'd like to continue on by playing the last 2 compositions I recorded. The next tune I composed is entitled Artet, and was inspired by Danilo Performance Lab, in which we discussed tetrachords. Tetrachords are 4-note chords that we typically associate with building scales. For example, an A major scale is made up of 2 different tetrachords, A major, A, B, C sharp, and D, and E major, E, F sharp, G sharp, and A. We discussed the potential of being able to create scales out of combining 2 different tetrachords together to create new sounds. I thought this was an interesting concept and wanted to try exploring it further by writing a chord progression based around tetrachords. Here's a little bit of Artet. Thank you. Thank you. All right, great. The last tune that I recorded was inspired by a concept that we explored throughout the entire year, which is a concept Danilo calls zero gravity. In the beginning of the year, this concept was very uncomfortable for me, for the most part, because I was used to playing standards in a very traditional way. But this concept is about trying to get you out of your patterns and muscle memory. The zero gravity concept is about liberating musicians from the roles of their instruments, and I tried to apply this concept to the standard like someone I love. In the recording studio, the other musicians and I just started playing the tune without discussing who would take the melody, who would solo, how to end it, etc. And this is the result. Thank you. Thank you. I have my bibliography here. And that concludes my presentation. Thank you to everyone who made this an amazing year. I'm really grateful to have this opportunity here at the Berklee Global Jazz Institute. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Wow. Alex Johnson, congratulations. Congratulations, Alex. Wonderful. We will make you talk. You want to start? With anything, any question that you have about what you just saw?
Sure. Okay, sounds great. Great job, Alex. That was really wonderful. So I know we've been meeting. Hi, everybody. I'm Roya Hugh. I'm part of the faculty development team here. And I presented a couple times to the Global Jazz students about, about the grant writing world, because of course a lot of the folks here have wonderful ideas and are going to need funding to make their vision come true. And so I did several sessions on how to write a grant, the different elements, and then I also came back and talked to them about the difference between a mission and a vision statement and how to put that together. So Alex and I have been meeting over the course of the semester. He has this amazing idea, of course, as you can tell. He's very passionate about it, and we really talk through the different elements of the grant as far as like how to put together his vision, so then he can put this in front of some major foundations and can put it in front of major donors and hopefully get, because I think we're thinking, what, 60,000 or so to make this happen for this first year. I guess my one question to you, Alex, is I know you mentioned a couple of the organizations in the LA area that already exist. Maybe you could talk a little bit about how you see your nonprofit distinguishing itself from the other two.
Yeah, definitely. So the Harmony Project mainly, they're pretty big organizations actually across the country, I believe, not just in Los Angeles, it's in other areas as well. and I'm definitely not trying to compete on that level in terms of having like a huge thing. I wanted to kind of start small, really locally, just with the students who were there. And it's, in a way, I think my vision and mission is tied together more with the Jazz Angels. Their organization is a lot smaller. It takes place in Long Beach, primarily, and it's all about jazz education, about giving kids performing experience out in the community and things like that. So if anything, it's more linked to that. But I really hope that mine is more, I think for the Jazz Angels, I believe, I don't know in terms of cost-wise, if there's a cost involved in terms of getting in, but a lot of the students in my area that I'm looking to work in don't have nearly enough funds to be able to pay for anything extracurricular like that. So I really wanted to distinguish myself in terms of just really be focusing on students in that area who a lot of them have very little, and being able to get them the education without having to pay extra or to be in some huge organization that.
That's
Yeah.
great. And we talked about this a lot too, because of course you can imagine probably the Jazz Angels and the other group are reaching out to the same donors. So as a donor, I'd read his application and say, well, how is yours different from theirs? Why should I give my money to you as opposed to these other groups? So what you just said is beautiful. And I know we talked a lot also about how his program is also going to really focus on building confidence level through music and performance. And so that's an element that I don't know if it's a piece of the other two that I think would make yours stand out a lot. But congratulations,
Yeah,
great
thanks,
job,
Ryan.
beautiful
Yeah.
music, of course.
Thank you, Roger, for being here. Alex, I'm going to give you my personal comment very quickly. I was talking with your dad before and complimenting him about you and on the good job he did. I think that, when I think of you, I was telling your dad, I saw a person that he was from the first day in input mode. I see you be connecting with every single person, every single student, every single teacher, artist in residence, all the forums, any guest like you, I will see your face and you just glued to ear and listen and questioning. And I think what I see as your final presentation, I can really see that you took advantage of it, and I can see this amazing quality of yours that I hope you will never leave, and I don't think you won't.
Thanks.
But it's so much part of your personality, and listening to your music and seeing this project, I think how like the three main classes of the Institute resonate with you, the Danilo Perez workshop, the class Patrizia about social activism, the pedagogy class, and how much all of that you were so connected, and in a way you put all the things together. So I really want to congratulate you on this part. With somebody like you, it's easy to maybe, because you bring so much from the part of the education, to underscore your playing. To me, your playing is really has grown so much. You're, really connected with a lot of the concept. And I particularly enjoy also, I didn't know your composition. I really liked what you wrote for the shooting. That really touched me, and to me showed that you really have an amazing quality in connecting to your emotion, and connecting to other. And I also really liked your experiment with the zero gravity. I enjoyed that. Your sound in the saxophone gets better and better. I can only say good thing about you, and I would like to ask you regarding the organization. One question that I have is, in your estimation, what is the timeline you're looking at in terms of the semester is finishing, so when, and do you have a timeline of things that you're planning to do?
Yeah, I'm not thinking about it in terms of immediately after I finish. I was thinking about at least waiting a year or two just to kind of get everything and work on the donors and grant writing and everything to actually practically try and see financially how I can gather enough money to make it. Because I'm estimating it's going to be around, to pay all the teachers and for all the different activities, it's going to be around $50,000 to $60,000 a year. So kind of I have to do a little more groundwork in terms of to get that rolling. But
of course, but
yeah.
I think your timeline should include the time, the legwork and the fundraising. So it would be good for you to give yourself some window of from year to the next year to be in this stage and to then move like that. It's good just to have some goals in mind. I really recommend and applaud you for the project. I think you're the right person, and I think it's going to be very important.
Thanks, Marco.
Congratulations, Alex.
Thank you.
Beautiful.
Wow, man. The biggest word that popped to my mind throughout your whole presentation was genuine.
Thanks,
You know,
man.
I really feel you as a person, as a player, everything you have, your vision, your presentation, there's such a genuine quality behind everything you're doing. I feel it, I think it, and so I wrote a few things down, maybe some things to think about that could, just some connections, you know, to make. First of all, I was thinking of your presentation and your style, everything. You have like this very unique, this genuine style. You're honest, you're direct. Maybe study some of the people who are great presenters, who are advocates for different causes, that kind of thing, because both visually, what you're doing with your slides and how you speak, I think you can emphasize some of the things that you're trying to get across a little bit more. Yeah. You know, like there's sort of this. You have a lot of words up there, right? It's tough to read. You kind of get lost in them a little bit. Like simple things like bolding some things, having, you know, making things a little bit more spare and choosing the things that you really want to emphasize. I think that's going to go a long way, especially when you're trying to convince people of your vision. With the music, you mentioned that the last piece was like, okay, this exploration of zero gravity. But maybe I encourage you to not partition it away like, oh, okay, now it's the zero gravity movement, now it's the other music. You know, it's zero gravity is more in the mind. It's a way of thinking and feeling and interacting with the world. And so I wouldn't say that the last piece was more or less zero gravity than the rest of the material. You know, I think it's all connected, and you can continue exploring those concepts, whether or not you're swinging over bop changes or you're playing completely free or standard or whatnot, that kind of thing. Yeah, and man, the vision, the nonprofit, everything you want to get started with. Let's definitely talk later, because I know like you can instantly start with this. You know, I have friends who, I know you're going to be fundraising, all this stuff. You have this huge vision, which I can't wait to see how this progresses. But you can start now, you know, just as simple as meeting with one student there or two, or maybe you could talk a little bit about the steps, like what's the most tangible first thing that you're going to be doing when you get back to that area. And
yeah, so definitely reconnecting. Specifically, I'm going to start at like specifically the one school I was at before, which is in New York. It's called Waite Middle School. It's actually where my wife was a teacher for 4 years, and reach back out to the connections that I have at that school and really try and just establish certain logistical things about like having the lessons on there. I know there's certain logistical things that have to happen in order for teachers to be able to come on school site and teach lessons and things like that. So really just get a lot of the groundwork and logistical things laid out. It's kind of the first thing I was thinking. And then from there, I definitely have a set of people in mind back home that I think would be excellent in terms of teachers and players who would be interested in doing this. So to reach out to them and try and get them on board, and if they're on board with the mission and the vision, where they see it going and being a part of it. Probably the first steps, I'm thinking.
Awesome. Yeah, the team building. Okay, that's super. And what Marco said, having some of those goals in mind. Okay, first thing, I'm going to, these next 3 months, I'm going to meet with 5 students and try to put a band together, right? And then, okay, the next thing's, raise enough money for a concert. And then whatever, you can think of like some small steps before the big goals that I think can get you towards that process. And then the last thing I was thinking of was that connection to your own music and the stuff that we've been doing here, and that vision you can have and tie that back with the students. So I think like a lot of this educational program is coming out of the musical experience you've had and all these but it can also come back into the music too. Like it's a cycle, Yeah,
totally.
So I hope you keep on like thinking of the connections both forwards and backwards that can lead you to this relationship that continually gives itself positive feedback for your future.
Yeah, thank you, man. It's great.
Awesome. Thanks, man. Beautiful. Yeah.
Chase, I have very, very little to say, but I want to say something really quick. When I met you last year, I was really curious to see how would you develop, like what direction you would go, with the fear of understanding that there was an sluggish of education that you work. You know, I want to see how you deal with that. And wow, you have dealt beautifully. You have addressed, you have embraced the unknown as an exciting experience to you. Never saw you down all year, even though you have those looks on uncertainty. You were enjoying the uncertainty of those moments that we got into, and you have passed through like the river. You know, you like it. It's a little bit cold, but I keep going. Wait a minute. I congratulate you. Not that to me is the introduction to zero gravity. The fact that you are weightless and you're willing to start all over again if it requires that. And I hear in your saxophone a huge sound of change. It's beautiful, man. It's really getting, it's like it's going goes directly to the heart, actually. I mean, to my heart, at least. It's something, there's a warmth there, and something you're being able to resolve in your sound that I wasn't hearing last year, that I hear now. A beauty, a lyricism. Okay, now, giving all these polished comments, and you know how I feel about you. I must tell you, in the first piece, I could hear more space in the drums, you know, and maybe more of a steady, kind of more of current groove. I would experiment with something more like some of those hip hop beat or something. It just what the drums were playing on, they made it sound like a context a little bit, like a style, you know. I would work on that, and I also hear woodwinds on it, the way you were playing the tenor. I hear some sound. I hear bass clarinet. I hear bassoon. Other sounds, you know. In the second piece, I wish you didn't play like Someone in Love, because I gotta tell you, as much as I love that piece, I couldn't get in the theme because of the I already went to like Someone in Love, you know. So I would work and I mean we can be inspired by material, but you have to be a little more like, remember those quotes that I said, you gotta steal it, but then learn to hide it a little better, okay? And hide that, and hide the After the Rain vibe. You know, there's a lot of that going on. It's like it's the little cliches of, love the thing about the tetrachords. I like how you put in it. It's not the way I would interpret it, but I love it. It's your own interpretation. The last song about, I agree with you. I didn't feel the zero gravity like that, but maybe when you explain this, you say there's zero gravity when you get in the spaceship, and then you go through the air, passing the limit, and then you go into really, something like that. I don't know. That to me, this feels, like just playing over exchanges without the compromise of bar lines, And I would just define it a little better, that this is a process to get to zero gravity, which is a state of being that is completely weightless and free of chord, free of harmony and stuff like that, And when you play swing, I had to keep talking to Jody about this, because she played drums on this. We don't have to tell people where the bar line is. I keep saying that the swing doesn't come from tampering the 2 and 4 hard. It's not necessarily. It's not. So just remember that. That's not what makes something swing. It swings itself, and it's the body, it's the lap of the head where you're tapping into. It's not because I hit the hi-hat louder in 2 and 4. It's where the swing is. Those are my musical comments, and I want to conclude that I can't wait, because I feel this is a chapter you just entered. You are in trouble, my friend, because the Rise of the Guardian. You gotta watch that movie. Do you watch it? Okay, but you are that character. As the world needs your input. Those kids are waiting for you. With your sound, with your openness, with your intelligence, you can make some serious positive change in the world, my friend. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Daniel. Thanks.
Alex Johnson, please clap again. Congratulations. All right, stick with us, 250 Alonso, for our last presentation.